Now, ahead of the planned Africa Climate Week set to be held in Nairobi from the 4th to the 8th of September this year, over 1,000 leading geoinformation and allied technology experts from 20 East and Southern African countries will gather at the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development, that's RCMRD, for a 3-day conference to share and exchange related information for sustainable development. Themed as Space to Community, the conference outcomes will enable geoscience experts to inform policy. I'm now joined by the user engagement lead at the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development to shed more light on this planned summit ahead of it actually kicking off. So we just want to understand what exactly is happening, the link between geomapping and climate change, and some of the outcomes that are expected ahead of that particular planned summit. So allow me to introduce Kenneth Kasera, who's joining me right here. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Asante sana for your time. And I think the obvious question would be, kindly explain a little bit more about the roles that RCMRD does, and equally explain the link between what you do and the climate change. As you've understood, I've just broken down, the Africa Climate Week will be happening next month. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rogers, for having us today. And on behalf of the center, it's amazing to be here and to share and also discuss this amazing topic. Yes, at the center, it's an institution that was established in 1975. And our main role is to assist in building capacity of institutions in Africa and beyond to be able to use Earth observation in decision making. Decisions in agriculture, decisions in water, decisions in land, and linking this to the policy level. So in terms of how this links to climate, I'll just start by saying that our Earth has systems. And these systems, there is a water system, which the technical guides refer to as the hydrosphere. We have the land system, we have the air system, and possibly where life is, and that is the biosphere. So when this interacts, there is need for us to understand how they interact, and possibly that interaction, how does it affect the quality of life of us in the planet Earth.
Okay.
And and when this happens, the study of all this is what we refer to as the geoscience. So as we start making sense out of the interaction of these spheres and how that affects our daily lives, then that bit refers to as the geosphere. So how does this bring back, or how does it pull this back to the climate level? One of the things that happens in the interaction is the changes in weather, changes in climate patterns over a period of time. And this has a lot to do with how things work on Earth. For example, if the temperature rises, there's one or two things that we expect to happen. And so how do we know that this will happen, and where the start of all this? So this technology helps us to be able to understand where we are coming from, where we are, and with some models and predictions, we're able to tell this is where we will be if this and this and this is done, if this and this and this is not done. Okay. So that's how that's assisted.
Well, speak to us about the accuracy of some of these predictions, because if I can borrow from the weather forecast, we well know of how we can't be too sure when the weather forecaster tells us it's going to rain tomorrow. You know, it's not a given. And equally, talk to us about geoscience and how it can be used to inform policy, you know, at a policy making level.
Sure. So just to answer to the first bit of the accuracy that comes along with this. And I think over time, we've improved on the models, because these are models, and that's why we use the word probably, or the probability of it raining is this and this, and the probability. But I think of age, I think countries have managed to come to around with 80-90% accuracies. And I think it's time we say kudos to them, because they're coming. I know the path has been long, but as we move along with the coming up of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and training the right data sets to be able to run in these models, I think we are headed there.
Okay.
Sure.
Speak about the geoscience and how it can inform, policy decision. Yeah.
Okay. So at every level of policy formulation, the entire policy formulation chain, we need information. And not only geoinformation, but information from various aspects as well. There are some that has to be collected on the field, which we refer to as in situ, and there are some that we can be able to pick from space. So us as an institution, we bring the aspect of the space side, in the sense that even trying to be able to look at how much we have that is critical for policy formulation. So all the chain, all the process that are evolved around policy, they need information at every bit. And this is how we find it interesting. And most of the time, the science policy conversation is not welcomed because scientists think they are the end. But we tend to know now that at every level we have to feed the information in those various levels. And if this is done, then our policies become impactful because it's robust enough based on something that really exists on the ground.
And I'm sure you've come across this, that on paper, in terms of policy, Kenya is miles ahead in terms of, the regional countries as well. But when it comes to implementation, that's where, the rubber meets the road. That's where we fail once. So talk to us about the implementation journey, apart from, being at the policy decision-making level, but equally, how do we link all this up to climate change?
Okay.
Yeah.
So possibly we start from the aspect of identifying that issue. And so the policy has to address something. And once this is done, then all the stakeholders are brought on board, and all the opportunities and all the strengths of the various institutions also brought on board. Then we are able to tell that this institution can provide this kind of information. And so from the identification of the problem all the way to implementation of that policy is a clear path, and each and every institution knows how to be able to plug in there. And once we can tell where we each plug in, then now we bring the strengths and the technologies and things like that. And remember, the main goal is possibly, for a given example, if we're looking at the trends in temperature, the trends in weather, and maybe a simple example that we can all relate to is the policies around maybe urban planning aspects. Assuming that we want to construct a road. And so who tells us now that if you are within, for example, just to give an example, like 5 meters from the road. So how do we tell that we are supposed to, who is lying within that? So we need the technology to help us just map out the number of maybe households along that road. So the policy is 5 meters away from the road. So the implementation bit of things is that everyone that now that's located within that 5 meter, there are different policies in that regard. There are rivers, but we need to maybe clear people along that to be able to make that development possible. So if, for example, 5 meter, then how we'll tell how many people are within the buffer of 5, and possibly how do we now manage to clear them out. So just being able to tell who is within that buffer is something critical for us to be able to achieve.
Now bring into the aspect of climate change. How can Earth observation actually contribute to meeting some of these SDGs that have been talked about time and time again?
Sure. And I'm happy that when you look at the SDGs, these are things that touches on human lives daily. There is one on water, there's one on health, there's one on agriculture. These are things that we face each and every day. And the benefit that all the aspect that the technology that we work for, called geoinformation science and whatever comes with it, is in the sense that we're able to just knowing where we were. Like if we're able to go back to 1970s and look at how our Earth was, and possibly now bringing science and research that has been done, we can tell that if there was an increase in 1% on one of the aspects within the interaction, within the spheres, then we expect, and this has happened. So then we're able to tell how far we are, where we are, and possibly where we will in regards to climate. So if we had clean water by 1972, then we're able to use the technology to be able to look at some aspect of water quality in terms of looking at the physical aspects within our water bodies. For example, there is hyacinth, how much is covered by that, and possibly the changes in weather in that water possibly contributes towards, makes that environment suitable for water hyacinth to grow. So you see temperature as a way of...
Exactly the RCMRD is doing to plug into the conversation and play a part as a stakeholder in this, all-encompassing journey. Talk to us.
Sure. So it's always good to bring various domains and stakeholders on board to share one or two ways in which things can be either improved or we learn from the lessons. We wanted to do this, it didn't go right. We wanted to, we did this, it went right. So it's a platform that enabled us to share and also learn from each other. And so by just bringing us together in various domains, understanding what the agricultural sectors are saying in this regard, what the water sectors are saying in this regard, and then bringing all this information together, and learning from various institutions, various countries as well, how they manage one or two things. And this is a global issue, and not only Africa, but it's a conversation at the global level. Okay. And so once we are able to also understand each and every bit and pieces that the technology can help sort, then that makes much easier for us to be able to work on that. Okay. And so what we bring on board is the aspect of as simple as how much do we have. So once we know how much do we have, then the aspect of quality sets in. So there are institutions that are mandated to do with the quality aspect, but at the back of our mind, we know what's driving all this. And science will be able to link what's driving that and possibly the factors around that. Yeah, so it will be a wonderful conversation to be part of as a center, and also to be able to prove that science can really assist in policy development and also adherence to the SDGs, the 17 of them, that are critical, because our heads of state signed to this. Sure. And so we hope that they have the best interest of us. And so ours is just to support the implementation of how that can look like.
Okay, and as we finalize briefly, let's talk about the climate change journey. And definitely Kenya is playing a part. We've seen the president quite vocal about it as well. The talk of carbon credits and whatnot is currently the conversation. But from your point of view, how do we win this fight in terms of climate change and the adverse effects that are felt not just in, Africa, but equally in the region as well, especially Kenya? We're just from, tough season of, drought. Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier on that it's not a country issue. It's a global issue that requires all of us to push toward the right direction. And we all agree that each and every bit of step is much welcome. And I agree with the aspect of us planting trees, and I think the center has been participating in this. It's a small step, but if you look at how that, in terms of once we have the enough tree cover, that is the 10% that possibly the Kenya Forest Service wants us to have, then that now starts having the aspect of the cooling systems now really setting in place. Yeah, so these are systems that we long to have, and we really support the government of Kenya and other governments, because the center has 20 member states in the East and Southern Africa. Okay. And so we are looking at, just looking at how much do we have in terms of the forest cover. Because if you look at science, they say much in terms of what our trees doing in terms of even the aspect of carbon, and how that will be paid, because I understand there's a conversation around plans so that we get you one or two things. Yeah, so we are willing to be able to tell how much we have, and I'm happy that our institutions in Kenya already have that capacity to be able to tell as simple as the forest cover that we have. And we won't go into the conversation of the quality of what we have, but from the aspect of knowing how much we have, then the steps, there's another step of now, within how much we have, what do we have in it? Then those conversations can now be taken to scientists, pushed back to policy, and then I hope we'll get it right.
Yeah, bring in the stakeholders on board as well. So definitely, thanks for your time breaking down how RCMRD is plugging into the conversation and pulling its weight as well in this all-encompassing journey towards, beating climate change and the adverse effects right here in the country. Thank you so much. Kenneth Kasera is the user engagement lead at RCMRD, just breaking down some of the steps they're taking ahead of the Africa Climate Week that is actually being hosted by the government of Kenya right here in Nairobi. So you can definitely look forward to more developments even as we cross over to the month of September. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Asante. That's how we bring to an end today's edition of News Center. Hope you're adequately informed. I'll see you later on at 1 p.m. on News Desk. Do keep it KTN News. Up next, yanayojiri.